Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to today's live stream. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that people literally do not want you to know. That's not an exaggeration. Uh, there are people who use this strategy and who actually do not want you to know about it. So it's going to be an exciting topic. We're going to be talking about ZSV, zero search volume keywords. In other words, we're going to be talking about the keywords that you plug into Ahrefs or Keywords Everywhere or whatever tool you use, and it shows zero search volume. And the secret is that many times those keywords are actually great keywords, and people do actually search for those topics, even if the tools don't show that they have search volume. And so we're going to be digging in to the topic, how to find these keywords, what to do with them, how to use them, etc. Our guest today is Ben Adler. He runs a tool called Keyword Chef, and he's going to be sharing with us his experience with zero search volume keywords and his process for, again, finding and using those keywords. Before we kick off, I'm going to make my normal announcements. So first and foremost, I have to give a shout out to our sponsor of today's session, Clearscope. Clearscope is an awesome tool, whether you're writing content for zero search volume keywords or a million search volume keywords. You can use Clearscope to better understand your readers, optimize your content, and rank in the SERPs. Check out the link down below to learn a little bit more about Clearscope and how you can work their tool into your content workflow. Secondly, please like and subscribe. So first of all, hit like on the video to help other people find it. Also, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, would definitely encourage you to do that. We have live sessions, Q&As, workshops, all kinds of awesome stuff around content marketing and SEO that happen on this channel about every 2 weeks. We bring in some really smart people and would love to see you on future sessions. And finally, I would like to invite you to join us inside our group. It's called Top of the Funnel. It's a free Slack community. We've got all kinds of content marketers, SEO folks, writers, and it's a mix of in-house people, agencies, freelance, just about everything you can imagine. And we run these live sessions as sort of part of this community. So inside the Slack group, you'll find all kinds of discussions as well as additional content, Slack threads, people sharing links and information, open Q&A, work opportunities, you name it. So if you're in content marketing, if you're in SEO, again, whether you're in-house or agency or freelance, it's a great community to connect with folks, learn new skills, just stay up to date on things that are happening, ask questions, whatever you'd like to do. Yeah, so just join us there, yesoptimist.com/tofu, TOFU, and we would love to have you. All right, with all that out of the way, I am going to introduce our guest today. As I said, Ben Adler is the founder and CEO of Keyword Chef. And today we're going to be talking about zero search volume keywords.
Hey,
Ben,
Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think I originally came across Keyword Chef and your tool reading Steve Toth's newsletter, SEO Notebook.
Yeah, I think he actually founded or came up with the phrase ZSV.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
So credits to him for that.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, I'm super excited to dig in. I think this is one of those sort of like I feel like we're kind of a little bit on the cutting edge of SEO in some ways when we're talking about zero search volume, because I feel like it's something that a lot of people have sort of preconceived notions, or they sort of dismiss them outright, and they haven't really thought about these keywords as being a real opportunity. And I think what we're finding is that more and more people are sort of embracing these keywords that show zero volume. So yeah, I'm excited to unpack it and learn a little bit more about your experience and how you approach it. So just for the folks on the stream here, and by the way, I forgot to mention, if you're watching the stream and you have questions as we're going through today's session, please feel free to pop those in the chat. And if we have time at the end, we will try to do a Q&A with Ben here. So the question I was going to ask Ben is, just to set the scene for everyone, can we just sort of define like what is a zero search volume keyword broadly?
Yeah, it's just a keyword that shows 0 volume in a keyword research tool. And a lot of times people ignore these because they don't think people are searching for them very much. And sometimes it will show 0 in the tool. It might actually be a low volume. It might not be. And sometimes a keyword in a keyword from a keyword tool might show 0 just because the keyword doesn't, the software tool doesn't have any data on that keyword yet. So sometimes it might just show 0 because it doesn't have data to show.
Yeah, that was actually gonna be my next question. So is that generally like the primary reason why these keywords appear as 0 is just because the tool just isn't aware of that keyword, or they just don't have any data on it? Or what is the reason that it shows up as 0?
Sometimes they might not have data. It might be a keyword they just haven't found yet. Or it might be a brand new keyword, like a new product comes out on market and it's like it never existed before, you know. So they just don't have that data yet. That could be another reason.
Right. And we don't have to go super far down that rabbit hole, but just, you know, based on your background, can you tell us a little bit about where that data actually comes from and why there might be sort of these gaps in the keyword data?
I'm not going to speak for all keyword research tools, but there are third-party APIs out there that do get search volume from Google themselves. They scrape it somehow, or they might get their data from some other ways. I'm not really sure about the other ways.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard that one of the big challenges, especially in like the B2B space, is that a lot of the data comes from, you know, for instance, like a third party Chrome extension that you might install. And part of using that is that they get to sort of aggregate keyword data. And so, for instance, like if you're like looking for B2B keywords, they might not have information on that because it's not installed on like a work laptop or something.
Yeah, that could be the case as well.
Cool. Well, that's super interesting. I mean, I think we've all run into this experience, right? And sometimes it's especially frustrating because you'll find a keyword or you'll come up with sort of a topic or something that you are positive that, you know, your audience cares about and they're searching for, and yet the tools all say 0 search volume. But I think what we're going to learn today is that you can't always trust the tools, and you gotta sometimes trust your gut, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned like new products and that kind of stuff being often showing 0 search volume. Are there any other sort of trends that you see in terms of like the certain types of keywords or certain industries or anything like that tend to appear as 0 search volume?
Not really.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I can't think of any other specific situation like that.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's sort of been my experience, is that new products or new sort of industries and stuff like that, you know, where again, you know, they haven't had enough time to collect data or they're not aware of those keywords. A lot of times that is where we see the sort of the biggest gaps a lot of times when we're doing research for clients. I'd love to know, Ben, just from your experience, like, have you personally experienced like a big discrepancy where, you know, you found a keyword and you went after it and it showed 0 volume, but it was, you know, actually turned out to generate 1,000 clicks a week or something? Like, any specific stories that you can think of?
Yeah. 1,000. I don't know if I've gotten 1,000 from a 0 search volume keyword, but getting a few hundred does happen. A few hundred visits per month from a 0 search volume keyword. And the thing is, like, so search volume doesn't necessarily mean traffic. Like,
right.
So your article is going to rank for a lot of different keywords naturally. And so those are other sources of traffic. And also, you know, not everyone's going to be clicking on the #1 spot in Google every time. Like, people click different links in the SERP results. So depending on where you rank too is another factor. So like search volume is only like a tiny piece of predicting how much traffic you're going to get.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to call out. And I think that's another good, if you're talking about a couple hundred clicks, that probably means that it's getting several thousand searches a month, right? So again, just sort of showing that even if the tool says 0 search volume, that's not necessarily a reflection of reality. And then to your point, there's a million possible long tail keywords that are coming off of that you're also ranking for that that the tool may also show 0 for. So there's a lot of opportunity that can be sort of hidden in that 0 number.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think in Steve Toth's newsletter, he shared an example of some data from Search Console that showed a page that was ranking for a bunch of keywords that showed 0 search volume, and they had generated something like 5,000 clicks in a matter of a couple months. And so I was just, again, that's obviously a huge opportunity in a lot of industries. 5,000 clicks is, a big percent of your overall organic traffic.
Yeah. Sometimes if you target like a 0 volume keyword, there might be like a secondary keyword that gets a lot more volume that you also happen to rank for.
Right.
So this actually happened to one of my pages. I was ranking for a secondary keyword that was getting a lot of traffic. So I was getting like double the traffic from this secondary keyword.
That's awesome. Yeah, you sort of like sneaking in the back door, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. One other thing I'll just mention too, and then I want to talk a little bit about how we go about identifying and finding these 0 search volume keywords. But just anecdotally for the audience, I just want to share like the other thing that we see a lot is just like, a lot of long tail keywords, especially, in tools like Ahrefs, they have a lot of great data, but a lot of times they don't have data, or they show 0 search volume on like long tail keywords where there might be like a huge opportunity. And especially if you're targeting, like a specific niche, you're doing content marketing for B2B SaaS or something specific like that. It might not show search volume, but could be a big opportunity for really targeted, high quality traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So yeah, let's Ben, let's talk a little bit about tools. So obviously you run Keyword Chef, so I'm guessing that's one of the tools in your arsenal here. But what are the tools or the strategies that you use to identify 0 search volume keywords?
Yeah. Obviously, if it shows 0 in the keyword research tool, but if you're not using like keyword tools, you can just like go to Google, use auto suggest. Google autocomplete and type in different phrases. And there's an extension called Keywords Everywhere. And it's like, if you just pay $10, it'll give you like 100,000 keywords for search volume. So if you're doing keyword research manually, this is a great extension to find 0 volume keywords as well.
Yeah, I use Keywords Everywhere. It's great. It gives you all kinds of like extended suggestions in your search results, sort of in addition to like the Google related searches and that kind of stuff, which is super helpful. So can you kind of walk us through like what would your process be for keyword research? And I guess would you generally like set out to find 0 search volume keywords, or is it just sort of a product of your process?
Yeah. I mean, if I can find an easy keyword that shows higher volume, I'll go for that first.
Sure.
But I just won't ignore 0 volume. So I'll still go after those. But if, like I said, if I find a keyword with higher volume that's still low competition, I'll go for that other keyword first. So the search volume for me is just prioritizing which keywords to go after first. What was your question again?
No, I was just asking like if you had a specific process for finding those 0 search volume, or if it's just sort of a product of your natural keyword research process.
Yeah, like I said, I don't specifically go after 0 volume. But my keyword research process is I try to think of like certain items or activities in my niche. So I had a camping blog, so I might search for like sleeping bag or camping stove or campfire or camping meals. So I just try to brainstorm like different entities under my niche and then search for those specific things. So it's all about like getting more detailed than what you search for.
Right. Yeah. And like we were saying, it's sort of a lot of times that's like sort of the long tail effect, right? That's where you're going to find a lot of those 0 search volume keywords that might be, might not be showing might not be showing any volume, but could be great for sort of a standalone page or article. So just as your example, right? It might be, I don't know, camping meals for a family of 4 or something, something more specific.
Yeah. Or vegan
Great.
camping meals.
Oh yeah, there you go. Someone's gonna start a camping blog after this. That's super helpful. And then, I had another question. Shoot, I think I lost it. What was? Oh, I was gonna say one of the things that I tend to sort of think or believe, I guess, is that if a keyword appears in the Google autocomplete, that generally means it does have search volume, even if the tools show 0. Is that a sort of a good rule of thumb?
Yeah, that's my impression as well. Like, why would Google be storing questions that people aren't asking?
Right. Yeah.
So, if it's showing up in auto suggest, it's fair to say that at least some people are searching for that keyword. And I think keywords by definition are things that people are searching for. Right? Like,
yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a fair assumption.
Great. Yeah, that's super helpful. So yeah, just to recap for folks, then, sort of two main like tools and strategies here for identifying some of these opportunities might be to use Google Auto Suggest and kind of do a manual research process where you're starting with sort of a high level term, plugging it into Google, kind of collecting your autocomplete suggestions, and then again keeping in mind that when you take those and plug them into, say, Ahrefs, it might show 0 search volume, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's truly 0.
Right.
And then the other tool that you mentioned, of course, Keyword Chef being a tool for this process. And then the other tool was Keywords Everywhere, which again is a great tool for sort of manual keyword research. As you said, you can kind of do a deep dive on a topic through the SERP, and again, it will populate a lot of long tail suggestions that even the tool will show you. Will say, hey, we're going to suggest this keyword to you, but we think it has 0 volume. And again, you got to kind of see through that, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah. Would you say, are there any specific tools that you think are better at identifying, like Keywords Everywhere? Do you think it tends to be better at identifying those opportunities than, say, I don't know, SEMrush or another tool?
The thing with Keywords Everywhere is like it's based on the SERP, like, in auto. So you kind of have to like do a lot of digging because the scope is like limited to the SERP and what you searched for.
Right.
But if you're using like Ahrefs or Keyword Chef, you're just going to get a lot more results based on the topic you're looking for.
Right.
You get more at once. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I would say from my experience, I think a workflow that works well here would be, to use Ahrefs to sort of identify some of those high level topics and things like that. And then using a tool like Keywords Everywhere or a manual process using Google Autocomplete to really sort of mine deep into that topic. Just in my experience, no shade to Ahrefs. I love the tool. We use it every day, but I feel like their keyword database tends to surface fewer of those low or 0 volume queries. Cool, man. Well, I think the next question on people's mind, of course, is like, okay, say you found a keyword that's in Google Autocomplete or whatever, and it shows 0 volume. How do you sort of compare that, or how do you prioritize a potential 0 volume keyword versus a keyword that it shows 200 volume or some number of volume? How do you sort of work that into your equation, so to speak?
Yeah. So my strategy is typically only going for low competition keywords. So as long as a keyword is low competition, I'll try to find the highest volume. So, if the 200 keyword is the same competition as a 0 volume keyword, I'll go for the 200 one, right?
Right.
But what if they're both at 0, right? Like, how do you choose which 0 to go for?
Sure.
So there's a few strategies. One is if you find like a lot of very similar keywords to the same keyword, like if the same question is being asked slightly differently, but it means the same thing, like why does my dog eat grass versus why do dogs eat grass, or why does my dog always eat grass?
Yeah.
It's basically the same question, right? It's just being asked differently.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find a lot of these other keywords are basically the same question, that's a good sign because it means it's most likely more searches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one strategy you can use to pick the right keyword.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I think that's a good secret to keep in mind, and always remember that, like, we use keywords, but it's really sort of a shortcut for a topic or a general query that people are looking for, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I think we should be thinking about keywords nowadays. It's just not like specific phrases, but really like what is the intent behind the question?
Mm-hmm.
Like what is the topic?
100%. Yeah. Did you have another strategy that you use there to sort of prioritize or work that into your strategy?
Yeah, potentially, like if you Google the keyword and there's like no people also asked questions around it, and there's the related keywords are kind of not related. It just might be like a keyword that's like really isolated, that's not really related to anything else. So we can expect fewer searches from that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, I mean, I think as a general rule, I think this is people are more increasingly aware of this, but like, never sort of work from a spreadsheet of keywords without actually doing the query, right? Because sometimes you never know what you're going to find on the actual SERP until you do the search. How about like, when you're evaluating a keyword, and you're looking at the SERP, are you looking for things that people have already covered or things that people have not covered, or do you have sort of a preference there of what you see as the better opportunity?
Usually not covered. These are called like underserved topics because people aren't fulfilling they aren't targeting that keyword yet.
Right.
So if you find like forums ranking on the front page or other user generated content, that's usually a good sign. These websites are usually easier to outrank because like forums, they don't have subheadings. They usually don't have internal links. They usually don't have images, and the information is sometimes like off topic or disorganized. So all of these are ranking signals that they don't have, yet they're still ranking for that keyword.
Right.
So if they're ranking for a keyword without all these ranking signals, then it probably means that keyword is easy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be ranking. So that's what I like to look for is like user-generated content, like Reddit, Quora, or even websites that do like scraping answers. Like any automated websites that do scraping. If you find those on the front page, that's a good sign for low competition.
Yeah.
And if there might be authoritative blogs, authoritative websites too, but if they aren't like talking about the keyword, that's a good sign too, because that means they're not very relevant, and you can beat them just by being more relevant.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the sort of big difficult question maybe, which is, how do you know if a zero volume keyword is actually a zero volume keyword or if it's sort of a not zero volume keyword?
Yeah. It is sometimes a hit or miss. You never know until you write an article about it and try to rank for it.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you find a lot of similar questions around that keyword, just worded differently, that's a good sign that it's actually higher volume. And just use your brain too. Like if it seems like a very obscure question, like that doesn't make sense, that nobody would really ask, like
Right.
that might actually be a zero volume. So part of it is just using your brain and doing some SERP analysis.
Yeah, that's super helpful. So, just to kind of recap for folks, I think the main thing here is, if we're sort of starting from a place of identifying these zero search volume keywords from a tool or from Google's autocomplete, then that in and of itself is already going to increase our confidence that like somebody somewhere has searched for this. Like they didn't just, Google didn't just make this up. Somebody has typed this into Google at some point. And then to your point, the second piece there is like, if you've got a bunch of sort of related or similar queries around a topic, then that's a good indicator that, hey, like, these show zero and maybe they are all very low volume on their own, but when you put them together, you might have hundreds or thousands of searches a month for that topic.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful. And then just going back to kind of the prioritization, which I think is also super helpful for us to think about, like kind of the framework for how we, build our strategy and prioritize resources. So you said, first and foremost, like you are still going to prioritize like stuff that shows volume over zero in most cases. And then, so you're essentially sorting by volume, you sort by difficulty, and then you sort of sort by, I guess like number of similar queries, essentially, right? So if you've got 5 queries that are all showing zero, but they're clearly like closely related or the same general topic, then you're going to prioritize that over a standalone zero search volume keyword with the same difficulty.
Yep. Also too, like another thing I consider is how easy it is to write about the actual topic.
Fair, yeah.
So if it's like a very technical topic that is going to require a lot of effort, I might just avoid it because there's a chance like it might not bring in much traffic. Where I could write, 2 or 3 easier articles for the same efforts and increase my traffic chances there.
Yeah. That's another great thing, and this is something that I'm seeing more and more often. This is a little bit off topic today, but one of the things that we talk a lot about is like, we often rely on the metrics that come out of tools, right? So difficulty and volume and these kind of things, but a lot of times it makes sense to sort of have your own homespun metric that you're assigning to some of these topics. So it might be, technical difficulty, or, how important is this to the business? How close is it to our revenue, that kind of stuff, because, not all zero search volume keywords are going to be created equal. And if it's, super high intent from a target buyer, that's probably more valuable than spending a bunch of time writing a bunch of informational articles that are lower intent.
Yeah. Another thing too, if you have a brand, not everything is about SEO. So if you write an article, it can be shared on social media. It could be shared in a newsletter. It can build authority with people coming to your site through different ways. Because they might land on your site somehow somewhere else, and then they might check out your blog and find a really good article that wasn't necessarily ranking. And articles can attract backlinks too, even if they might not get much traffic. So there's more than one purpose of writing blog posts than just SEO traffic.
Well, that's blasphemous, but no. Just kidding. Yeah. No, I think that's a good heuristic for people to use internally, especially if you're trying to sort of justify an investment of time and resources into something that shows zero search volume. Maybe you can sort of, one way to justify that is like, hey, even if it does get no search volume, we can use that content in these other ways or something.
Social media, trying to get backlinks to it, things like that.
Very cool. So I want to talk really quick because you mentioned keyword difficulty as being sort of one of the main things that you're using to prioritize keywords. Is there a specific tool or how do you sort of gauge keyword difficulty, or what's your process there?
Well, I use Keyword Chef.
Fair enough.
So what Keyword Chef does, it finds keywords that have forums ranking on the first page. So you don't have to constantly go to the search results manually and look for them. This Keyword Chef will point those out for you automatically. So that's like a huge time saver. So that's my strategy, just finding forums on the front page.
Does Keyword Chef also provide like sort of a numerical difficulty score?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a keyword difficulty. It has what's called a SERP score. So it will count the number of easy to outrank websites on the first page.
So there you go.
It'll be a score from 0 to 10, 10 being the easiest to rank for. Okay, interesting. And can you give us any kind of sneak peek there? Like, is
is it deciding what is easy to outrank based on what you're just saying, like if they're a forum or something like that, or is there anything else that's going into that calculation?
Yeah, it does forums. It does like free blogging websites, like Blogspot. These are not user generated content, but these are usually created by like people who aren't really very serious about SEO.
Right.
So like,
so is it kind of, is it also analyzing like sort of the quality of the page and like how well optimized it is and that kind of stuff?
no, not specifically. It just mostly looks at the URL. Like,
got it. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. I mean, that tells you probably 90% of what you need to know, right?
Yeah. It also looks at if there's any non-web files like PDF documents or PowerPoints. Sometimes these can be easy to outrank as well. So it looks for those. Or if you have a list of like weaker competitors in your niche, you can plug those in and have keyword chef look for keywords that have those sites ranking as well. So it saves a lot of time in analyzing
for sure
the SERPs manually.
Yeah. For keywords that maybe don't have any like obvious, sort of opportunities like that, like say there aren't any forums ranking, is there any other way that you sort of analyze like the general strength or difficulty of that query?
Not automatically, but like, if you wanted to do it manually, just look at the pages and see if they're fulfilling the search intent or not. Like I said, if they're off topic, that's a good way. That's a good sign that you can beat them just by being more relevant.
Yeah, that's that is one thing that I've found more and more frustrating, honestly, even more so than volume, is that the keyword difficulty from tool to tool can range dramatically, and a lot of times there's not a lot of transparency into how or why they're scoring a certain keyword as 10 or 100 difficulty or whatever. And so a lot of times it does come down to, okay, I got to look at this myself and kind of eyeball what's going on here.
Yeah, I think Ahrefs and SEMrush, I think they primarily look at backlinks. But I don't think there's any tool that looks at everything, like relevancy, how well optimized the page is for SEO, and backlinks, relevancy. Like, there's so many factors. There's so many different ways you can look at it, So I don't think any one tool is like 100% perfect in that regard.
For sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think as part of our workflow, especially, we try to use a couple different tools and sort of triangulate the truth, so to speak, and then also do like more and more where you just rely on manual analysis, because unfortunately it is difficult to really dial it in based just on numbers in a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I think the important thing is like you do double check the SERP before actually targeting the keyword.
For sure. Cool. Well, I want to talk a little bit about cannibalization. I think this is something that we start to get into more and more as we think about these like long tail keywords, and we think about like these zero search volume queries. And so just for context for anyone on the stream here, when I'm thinking of cannibalization, I'm thinking of an example like, say you've got a website and you rank right now for types of bikes or something, very broad. And then you find a keyword that's, types of bikes for long commutes. I think this was actually an example from Steve's newsletter. How do you, I guess, what would be your process, Ben, for deciding whether that sort of warrants its own page, or if you're sort of competing with yourself there by creating a new piece of content?
Yeah. I probably wouldn't target like a broad, like types of bikes is probably more competitive. But if I did have two keywords, like how do I know if they should be grouped together in one article or be separate articles, right? What you can do is look at the SERPs for each of those keywords. And if there's a lot of links that are the same in both SERPs, then you can say Google thinks these two keywords have the same search intent because it's showing the same results. But if the search results are like completely different for both keywords, that's a good sign that Google thinks the keywords are different enough to write different articles about.
Okay.
So this is how keyword clustering works. It basically finds keywords that have similar SERPs and then groups them together.
Right.
So if they aren't clustered, that means you can you're probably fine writing separate articles about them. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. Yep. And that's something that we are often doing as well on our side too. I think that's super helpful. It's just, again, unfortunately, it all comes back to doing the search, right? And looking at that yourself, or I guess, finding a tool that will pull that into a spreadsheet or something for you. But yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And so, is there sort of a scenario where it might make sense? So like, let's just say, going back to that example, I know you said you probably wouldn't write that article of types of bikes because it's so broad, but let's just say you did, and you're ranking page 1 for types of bikes, and when you do, types of bikes for long commutes, you rank you rank on page 2 or something, right? So you're not really getting any traffic from that. In that case, how would you sort of make a decision on whether to create something new, or how would you handle that?
I mean, if the keywords are different enough, I would probably just like leave them separate and just interlink them. But like, not all your articles are going to rank all the time, like.
Very true. Yeah.
And they're not going to rank immediately as well. So
yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily combine them.
Okay.
I mean, if you do, I don't necessarily think that's wrong. But I think a lot of times there's like a gray area where there's like no right answer when it comes to like how similar keywords are, because sometimes you could write a different article, and sometimes it makes sense to fit it in an existing article. One thing to consider too is like, does the separate keyword have does it warrant in a article by itself? Like, is there enough information to write about? If it's like a 1 or 2 paragraphs that you can only write about because it's such a narrow keyword, then it might make sense to combine it with a different article.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I think, again, going back to, is there some kind of like a manual review process, or using your brain or your gut or whichever one there to kind of gauge the topic makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's helpful. I think, one of the, so I guess just to again kind of recap that for folks, I think the strategy there, or maybe the takeaway is, if you've got some content that's ranking for a query, and you're identifying some, maybe long tail versions or something, there's some sort of analysis that you can do there on the SERP by looking at, hey, do the SERPs return basically the same results, or are they separate results? And if they are, then it's probably warrant its own page or its own piece of content. And then the other thing is, sort of just thinking logically about what that page might actually look like if you were to create a standalone page, and if it makes sense to create that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, I think this is it's interesting because I think that's sort of like one of the challenges with zero search volume keywords, right? Is that with these, with more queries, that you can sort of go infinitely down the rabbit hole, right? And so we have to have some of these processes, like you mentioned clustering. So taking a bunch of keywords and sort of analyzing them side by side to say, okay, which of these are really kind of the same general topic. That is a super helpful way to kind of wrangle these keywords, because you might end up with, I don't know, 1,000 keywords that are all zero search volume. And then how do you sort of prioritize and think about those? And that seems to be one strategy, is sort of clustering around the topics. And then the other piece is, what we were just talking about. So sort of analyzing the type of content that would make sense for the query, and what sort of the structure and the length might be.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips or anything that we didn't cover when it comes to your process, or how you think about zero search volume keywords, or either in terms of finding them or evaluating them or prioritizing them?
I think like I said, one factor to consider too is like just how easy it is to write an article. I wouldn't spend a lot of time writing an article that's zero search volume. Some of these articles can be written really quickly and rank really fast. So like, the more articles you can do like that, the better. Like, you know, if one of these articles brings in 300 visits per month and they're easy to write about, like, you know, if you do one a day, you know, that's 1,000 extra traffic per month, you know.
Right.
So it's just like thinking about your ROI is like, where is your time and energy and money best spent, you know, on which articles.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Do you have any kind of system or anything that you use for that, or is it just like a manual process of like that one looks easy, or
just using my brain, like anything that is like super technical, like if I'm like, I don't want to explain the details of a fusion reactor or whatever, like anything that requires like a lot of like nitty gritty science or numbers or nitty gritty medical terms. I would probably avoid those just because it takes more research. And I have to whoever writes it has to like understand that process too. So like just learning about the process that takes time as well. So just like if it has an easy answer, like that's good.
Fair enough, but not too easy, because then it might not be its own
search. That's true. It is a balance.
For sure. Yeah, I think one tip maybe for folks there, you know, I mentioned this, you know, sort of coming up with your own metrics. I mean, for me, you know, I'm a data driven, I'm a spreadsheet first kind of guy. And so for me, one of the things that we do is we'll sort of like score things with our own metric system, and then we'll create like a sort of a master score formula, if you will, that will factor in, say, you know, volume and, you know, the number of queries that sort of fit the same topic and the difficulty and some of these other factors, and sort of spit out like a prioritization score. So we kind of create like our own little system to kind of say, okay, here's what seems to be like the best opportunity, or maybe like the best ROI based on effort and difficulty and volume and all those things.
Yeah, everyone usually has like some process as they get good at, you know, doing keyword research and things like that.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an evolving thing, right? I mean, that's the other thing is like we've got new tools that are, you know, there's new data, and, you know, sometimes the data that some tools has, you know, it becomes outdated or whatever. You got to think about using other tools, different things like that. So it's always a process that's kind of always changing, always evolving.
Yeah, I think it depends on the site you're working on too. Like if it's a brand new site versus something that's already authoritative, where you do have a better chance at going after more competitive keywords, you know.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Is that something that you would advise? So like, you know, let's say I'm starting on a new site. Do you sort of invert your process to say like, okay, you know, I mean, you already said that you generally go after lower difficulty keywords first, but like, you know, is that sort of how you think about your strategy depending on what kind of site you're working on?
Yeah, like a brand new site, it's better to go after like super easy keywords just to build up that authority and just like let Google understand, let Google trust you more, you know.
Yeah.
And then you know, as you get more established and you start building a backlink profile, you can probably go after more and more competitive keywords over time.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's definitely something that we think about a lot, you know, with our clients is, you know, how do we sort of show progress early without necessarily, you know, we take a kind of a portfolio approach. You know, we want to like place some long-term bets here, place some short-term bets here, and kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, we're getting down here to kind of our last 15 minutes. So a couple of things I want to do. So first of all, folks who are on the stream here, if you've got questions about keyword research, about zero search volume, about any of the tools that we've talked about, please pop those in the chat, and we'll try to spend a couple of minutes here going through viewer questions. While we're waiting for those, Ben, I'd love to just talk a little bit about your tool, Keyword Chef, and can you tell us a little bit about what it is, how it works, what makes it unique?
Yeah, so I have a tool called Keyword Chef. It's really good at finding long tail keywords. And it's mainly targeted toward like bloggers and people with blogs and niche websites. If you're doing like e-commerce or local SEO, it might not work at all. Just because I'm more focused on finding those long tails, like lot of questions and how-to keywords. So you just plug in your topic, and then you get a list of keywords. And the real-time savings is, like I said, it analyzes the keyword for you. It analyzes the SERPs for you. So instead of going to Google every time and looking for forums, Keyword Chef will tell you which keywords have forums already ranking.
Okay. Yeah.
So, imagine doing this for 1,000 keywords manually. Like, just imagine how long and tedious that would take, right?
Yeah.
But in Keyword Chef, you can do that, really quickly. So it's a huge time saver. And right now it's like pay as you go, so there's no monthly subscription. So if you just want to use it like once every 3 months or every day, it
that's
fine. So you pay for what you use.
That makes sense. How did you kind of come up with this idea, or like what sort of sparked sent you down this path to build Keyword Chef?
Yeah, so I got good at doing keyword research myself for my own websites, and I was ranking really fast for the keywords I was finding, and I thought the process could be automated. So I have a programmer background, so I built a tool that does that.
Very cool. Yeah. And for context, what is your background kind of like informational, like affiliate sites, or kind of where are you sort of coming from there?
Yeah. So my first website I started maybe 7 years ago, and that was a product review website. I didn't know informational articles existed at the time. So like, review
you're just writing like X best whatever, like this review
and product reviews. I mean, that's what I discovered. So I just like replicated what I saw. And then I think review websites are a lot more competitive now, and Google is more strict. So I think I shifted towards like informational articles where I can earn from ads. And I can still include affiliate links in those informational articles, but I'm not doing very much product reviews anymore. Unless maybe I own the product and I can write a really good review.
Right.
Where I can take original photos and really know what I'm talking about. Or if it's like a super easy keyword, I might do like a 5 best, X. But mainly today, it's more for, I mainly write for informational content.
Very cool. Cool. All right. Well, we have a question here from Kayla, so I want to jump into that while we're doing that really quick. Again, the site here to check out Ben's tool is keywordchef.com, and then Ben also has a Facebook group. You can go. There's a quick bit.ly here, Keyword Chef FB, and he's got a group there where you can, I'm assuming, ask questions and learn from other folks who are using the tool and doing this kind of keyword research. Okay, so Kayla says, when using no volume keywords, how do you present the value to the clients? So yeah, this is something that we certainly tackle. Talking to clients. So say you present a strategy to a client that's got a bunch of keywords, and they say, what's the search volume or whatever. How would you sort of explain the value to those clients?
Yeah, a client might say like, why are we going after these, right? I don't take on clients. Like I don't have an agency like you do. But if I did, I would try to show them like previous results. Like I would show them existing data. If you don't have that data to show them, you just have to convince them to try it with a few articles, maybe at first, and then convince them with that data. So that would be my advice for that.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think, there's, again, I keep referencing the newsletter where I found your site and learned about you, Ben, but Steve Toss newsletter, he has written about this, and he has some great specific examples and screenshots showing, the impact of these zero search volume. And I'm sure there's other people who have shared similar sort of case studies out there. And so I think that would be a great way to sort of justify and, sort of explain to the client, like, hey, look, just because this says zero doesn't mean it's actually zero. And here's how we know that. And then if I can just toss in my own 2 cents too, as I just mentioned a moment ago, one of the things that we do is sort of take like a portfolio, kind of think of it as like an investment portfolio, right? So yes, we're going to go after some high volume, difficult keywords. And then we're also going to sort of place some bets on some of these like things that are showing zero volume, but we think are like really high intent or have a lot of business value. So sort of, explain to them, again, we're kind of taking a diversified approach here, and maybe we're not going to place all of our chips on that zero volume because we don't know for sure until you make the content, right? Yeah.
I think that would work. Yeah.
That's a good way to think about it. Cool. Well, again, folks, we have a couple more minutes here with Ben. If you have any questions, any additional questions, feel free to toss them in the chat. But yeah, I would. Ben, I guess like just maybe can you tell us a little bit more about kind of the stuff that you're into now outside of Keyword Chef and what you're working on?
Yeah, I do have a few niche sites. I think I have maybe 3 niche sites at the moment. I mostly go into like hobbies I'm personally interested in to write about, but I've kind of been neglecting those niche websites and just focusing on Keyword Chef at the moment. But I think it's still important for me to like still continually build niche sites just so I can still be in the game to speak.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that like I continue to use my own tool. I don't want to be building something I'm like too disconnected from myself, So I think just like staying in the game is important.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I think that's super valuable. Have you sort of, I guess, like run into anything in your own, using your own tool, or I guess vice versa, where it sort of changed the way you did things or thought about your own sites or how you're building the tool?
I mean, I have like made some changes based on like my own experience. Like, if something's annoying me, it's probably annoying other people. So like fixing it for myself is a good way to fix it for other people too.
Yep.
But in terms of like keyword research strategy, like I did introduce I talked about clustering, where you compare 2 keywords and analyze the SERPs. That's something like I introduced into Keyword Chef, and I wasn't really doing that before manually because it takes a lot of time. If you have a lot of keywords to analyze the SERPs. So that's like one thing I wasn't doing before that I'm now doing just because I can automate it.
Yeah, that's valuable. I feel like that has been sort of a more recent thing. And I think, again, it's partially driven by the fact that there are more tools like Keyword Chef that are surfacing more keywords. And so it sort of necessitates, we have to have a better system to kind of sift through and organize these into cohesive topics, right?
Yeah. And that's part of the game is like, just like organizing keywords, and that's like a big part of it already.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions at the moment from the group here, but I'll just throw up here for anyone else who's watching this either now or in the future. Ben has kindly provided his email address here, which is ben@keywordchef.com. So if you do have any questions, again, about this process, about Keyword Chef, the tool, feel free to reach out to him with those questions. And similarly, of course, if you'd like to reach me, you can find me. The best place to find me is inside top of the funnel. So just pop into our Slack here. And again, you can join that yesoptimist.com/TOFU. All right. Well, Ben, it has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for sharing all your insights about keyword research and your processes and your own experience.
Sure, Tyler. It was fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll give you a couple minutes back today. Thanks all for joining the live stream. One more final shout out to our sponsor for today, Clearscope. And again, if you have not already, pop down into the description, hit the link there. Thanks again, and talk to you soon, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.